So you were just sharing some information about a conversation you had last night with a couple of women who are looking to run for council. Can you share some of their questions and thoughts and concerns that they may have had and how you helped address that with them?
Absolutely. So one of the questions that I was asked is about appearance and presenting yourself when you go and campaign. And the one individual that's looking at putting her name forward is a young person with a really good reputation in our community, but does dye their hair. And they were really concerned that that would have a negative effect on the voters. And the one thing we talked about is you have to be yourself. People like you for who you are. And when you campaign, be yourself. That's who is going to elect you, and you want to be that same person the day after the election as you are when you're campaigning. So the message I gave to her, if you went and dyed your hair a normal color, a brown, I would ask what's wrong, because that's not who you are and that's not who I've got to know. So the one advice I would give to anybody looking at putting their name forward is be yourself and present yourself both before and after the election as to who you truly are and who you're going to represent when you move forward as a councillor or mayor.
So do you think physical appearance, things like multicolored hair or tattoos or piercings or anything like that, do you think that is more of an issue in smaller communities than maybe larger, or would it be the reverse?
I think in any community, I don't think it really matters what size of a community that you live in. The one thing that her and I talked about yesterday is 1 in 5 people don't like you. And they don't like you for various reasons. It could be your hair color, it could be the tone of your voice, it could be the way you present yourself, it could be the clothes you wear. But you're not going to appeal to everybody, so don't try to appease everybody. Be who you are, and when you campaign on why you want to put your name forward. What are the issues, what do you feel you bring to council that will benefit the community as a whole?
So was this your first term on council, or?
No, this is my second term, 1 term as a councillor and 1 term as a mayor. So 7 years, and it's been a fantastic 7 years.
So what are some of the highlights of your campaign when you're first running, and then maybe when you're running for mayor? What were the differences, but highlights, experiences?
The first time as a councillor I was acclaimed, so I didn't get that experience. I did run provincially before, and I lost provincially in 2012, but comparing both runs, my run as mayor, I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot of things about the community. I door knocked every door in our community, and it gave me an opportunity to hear from all walks of life, every profession, some of the different issues, and some of the issues that are out there, issues I never even knew existed in my community. So it gave me an opportunity to really reflect back when I got elected. How do we encompass some of the issues I heard at the door into our policies or into our decision making in the next 4 years? So that was probably the highlight of it. The low light of it sometimes is not everybody welcomes you to their door for various reasons. So sometimes the reception you get isn't the friendliest. And that's okay too, and you've got to acknowledge that when you put your name forward. Again, not everybody likes you for whatever reason.
So what inspired you to run initially? I mean, you mentioned that you first ran for provincial politics and then you went into municipal. So what was your inspiration for both?
So I have to say my inspiration went way back to my 20s in terms of knowing I wanted to have a role somewhere. I just didn't know where I would fit, whether it would be municipally or provincially. I actually ran for council in 2004 in a smaller community we lived in the town of Fox Creek, and was successful. And the time that I spent there before moving to Whitecourt, I loved it. I knew that was where I wanted to go, but then there's the barriers, and the barriers are being a wife and being a mother. And I think those are obstacles for women. And when I was asked in 2010 to put my name forward in a by-election, I had said, 2008, in a by-election, I had said no, because I was a widow and my kids were at the point where they weren't self-sufficient. So I knew I had to wait for that opportune moment to enter the public life. And I think that's a huge component when women take a look at entering politics. And I think there's ways around it if you really want to work at it.
So were they barriers, or were they perceived barriers? Did you think that you couldn't do both in that time, or was it just wasn't the right time for you?
You know what? A little bit of both. When I look at it, and I ran in 2004 when my husband was still alive, I had him as backup for when I went to meetings for childcare sharing and in the parenting, and that made it a lot easier as opposed to being a single female. And not wanting to go and ask friends if they could help drive my kids to hockey or to figure skating or to pick them up if I had meetings. It was somehow not wanting to interfere with other people's lives, but reflecting back on it, there would have been people that would have helped me out. If I would have actually put my name forward and been successful, I know there were people that would have stepped up to the plate and helped. And if I have one message to give women is, if it was our husbands that wanted to run, we would make it work for them. So it's sitting down with our spouses and looking for a way that we can make it work for our family and allow females to enter politics. Another thing that I talked to the young lady about yesterday is you sit on boards and you chair boards for different community groups and you do presentations to council and you have no issue with it. But why is it when you look at leaving that chair and coming and sitting on the other side of the desk, is it so scary? Because it's the same. You're helping people, you're making a difference. You're listening to the concerns of the residents and the businesses, and collectively as a group, you're making a decision that'll benefit your community going forward.
So looking at your conversations last night with these two women, what advice would you give them about challenges with social media, for instance, or how to use social media in their campaign?
So we talked a bit about campaigning and what do you do, and we talked a bit about social media, but when I talked about campaigning to me is a real personal style, and you've got to pick what style suits you. And for some people it will be door knocking, it'll be that personal one-on-one at the doors. Other people prefer using the signs and the mail outs. Other people will do town hall meetings. Other people will do social media, and some will do a combination of everything. But you have to pick what suits you. And if you're using social media, I would really strongly suggest that you might want to take a course in dealing with social media, because sometimes going that route can have some very harsh repercussions, because people like hiding behind social media, and sometimes the comments you get, you know how you need to learn how to politically answer those questions in a way that's not offensive but still standing by your position on something you believe in.
So that might be a little bit easier once you've been elected to council, because you kind of have the position statements in answering social media.
Yes.
But how do you do that when you're campaigning? So you're getting some tough questions or things like that as a campaigner.
So when I ran, that's such a good question, because I would get comments on my Facebook page, and your instant reflex is you want to go back on that keyboard and you want to answer. But I always stuck by my 24-hour rule. Is I would think about it for 24 hours, and sometimes after 24 hours I would have the same answer that I instinctively had the night before, but sometimes I would have changed it and thought about it and addressed it a little bit differently, not to get yourself into a little bit of trouble, because with social media it's so easy. Once you hit send, there's no taking it back. I don't care if you want to delete it a minute or 10 minutes after, there's a permanent record out there somewhere.
So how would you suggest people garner support and recruit volunteers to support them in their campaign activities?
I would suggest to people that are looking at putting their name forward is to start asking questions and find out if you have that support. There's always people that'll come help, whether it's putting up signs, helping you with mail outs, helping you door knock. There's always people that will believe in you, that will help you. And once you've established that and you've got job roles for everybody and they know what their time commitment is, what their job is, it really isn't as daunting as what it first appears to be. But go out there and talk to people. Don't be shy, don't be scared. I know the women that I've talked to, weren't even aware that they could start talking today about running. They could start garnering their support. The only thing you can't do in our community is put up election signs until nomination day. But other than that, if you want, you can start door knocking, getting your team together, getting a marketing strategy put forward. And I would suggest you do that, because if you're going to wait till nomination day, it's too late. You need to have everything prepared in advance, that you're either doing things ahead of nomination day or you're ready to go on nomination day.
So do you have any other last thoughts, tips, advice you'd like to offer for women?
You know what? Go into it with a real positive attitude. For me, any of the elections that I've put my name forward in, you've got to acknowledge there'll always be winners and losers, and sometimes you might not win the first time, and that's okay. Don't be disappointed and discouraged, but learn from that experience and know that there's another election coming up in the future to put your name forward. As a female, I think it's really important having that female perspective at the table, because we do look at things a little bit differently. If you're not successful, there's so many committees that you can be on as well to be a part of the decision making and getting ready for the next opportunity that arises. But we do hold a valuable seat at the table, and the only way we can increase the number of women at the table is by having more females put their name forward.
That's fantastic. That's great.
So that's my words of wisdom, and I don't know if I helped at all, but I know from talking to colleagues at the table, they do appreciate having us, and it's important that we're there.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.